Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turf's Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone Show this evening.
Hey, a great afternoon, a good evening, and a good morning, depending where you are in this world. And I hope it's a safe place, because some things are happening that aren't so nice in the world, but we're all hoping that everybody's listening and in a good spot. So welcome to the Water Zone Show. I'm Rob Starr, along with the most technical guy in hydraulics I know, Mr. Chris Davey.
Well, thank you for the compliment there, Mr. Rob Starr, but I got to tell you something. I thought you and I talked about this, trading off hot temperatures from Phoenix over to here to Southern California. You've done it again, buddy. We're scorching here.
Yeah. So it's hot here. Like I said, it's 108. And sunshine, and I don't know what else is happening in the world. The people worry about the drought, and there's stage 1s and stage 2s here throughout Arizona. I don't know what's going to happen, except I heard it's going to be cooler in the next half of the week. So we'll see. And you're supposed to get cooler weather. We're supposed to drop down to the 70s at night. But I also heard that you guys over there in Southern California will be having some lower temperature as well.
Yeah, that's the plan, Robin. I'll tell you, it can't come soon enough. The fires that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago on the show are still burning in the hills above Los Angeles, northeast of L.A., the line fire in particular, and it's active now on its eastern flank. Getting close to a couple of communities, Seven Oaks and Oak Hills in particular, which are populated areas. Cal Fire is really got, they've got, something like 3,000 people and assets on that. But, fire is really responsive to temperature. And when the temperature's cool, it's easier to get a handle on fires, to get people in there, to cut the fire lines, to get the frost check down by the air assets. And when it gets hot like this, above 100 degrees, and in the Inland Empire here, for those familiar with Southern California geography, in the Inland Empire, it can often be 20 to 25 degrees warmer, just 60, 70 miles inland from the coast, as is the case with this heat wave. But the prognosis looks pretty good for next week, cooling down a bit. So knock on wood, or in my case, simulated wood grain formica.
What amazes me is how land with their vegetation can suddenly ignite with the temperature. I mean,
sure.
yes, there's people that start fires, and granted, but I look at things like from National Geographic, like in Africa, every year they have a big, gigantic fire that goes across the belt. But the same thing here in California and other states. The heat gets to be so hot that it self-ignites the vegetation, and that causes what we're seeing, what you're seeing. And that's terrible. They talk about thinning out the forests or cleaning them up. I know there's regulations in various cities that if you live on a hill, that you got to, cut back, X amount of feet going down the hill. So it doesn't. And I used to laugh when I lived in Anaheim Hills, and, a pretty respectable city. But you drive by and you see a herd of goats that they bring, and they eat up all the vegetation.
Yeah.
And whoever that guy is, he's been doing it for, God knows, 15, 20 years. And I can only tell you the goats I saw were stocky, so they were kept in good shape. They weren't hungry for the summer, so that was a good thing. But yeah, it's a dangerous world out there with fires. And right now with what happened on the East Coast with the hurricane, unbelievable. I mean, that to me seems to be the worst hurricane I've ever lived through. I mean, that I'm alive. I mean, I wasn't there or anything, but I just can't believe what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's devastating right back there on the East Coast. I have a friend in Greensboro, North Carolina, that I've been talking to, texting with predominantly, and thankfully he's safe but boy, some of the areas around, some of the things he was discussing with me and telling me about, just devastating, Robert. And all of those people who didn't expect, this kind of 100-year sort of rain and flooding. I hope that there's some lessons learned by this, and I'm sure there will be, and other safeguards put in place, improvements to flood mitigation, stuff like that. I mean, that stuff's got to happen. It's not going to fix or not going to help the people that are in a big issue right now, but as a country, we should learn from that stuff. I just want to comment also on when you were talking about the fires, Rob, how they get started. The line fire, the one that I was just talking about, that's flared up a bit. They have come out a week and a half ago, actually, saying that it was arson, Rob, and started by somebody. But dry lightning is also an issue, right? Especially in the late summer and early fall months when we get the monsoonal moisture from, again, the Mojave and Central Desert that comes over California, and when it hits that adiabatic heating from the mountains, it's dry. There's not enough to cause a lot of rain, and so you get dry lightning, and that's a cause.
I hope they have more hard sentences for people who are convicted of arsonists, because hundreds of thousands of homes can be wiped out, property. I mean, animals. I don't know. I don't know how somebody could do that, but if they do, I think there's no other thing to do but put them away for good, or even worse than that. I just feel bad that people lose everything. I mean, watching the news with the hurricane, this guy's crying, and his whole lifetime he said, I worked all this to get this house and everything, and in a matter of hours I have nothing anymore, zero. Yeah. And that is, it's tear-jerking. It's just really hard. I just don't think we get tough enough in some of these crazy people who do things. We don't put them away, or we let them out on this early bail. I won't get political in that stuff, so I won't even mention what I was going to say. But it's crazy. We have to bring order back and make sure that we don't have these issues. Anyway. Yeah,
true. Where you live, Rob, are there brush? You just mentioned brush clearance a little while ago. Are there any requirements for you where you live for brush? We certainly have it here, and I'm well aware of what the brush clearance requirements are.
We have some on most of the property that's here, because it's pretty huge here. Like I said, we have 76 parks within our private community here, so it's you've been here, you saw. There's lots of open space, but there's a lot of control on that because of the walking and riding paths and all the other stuff, and all the parks that we have. So
we were this city here where I live was a fairly good influencer on what the requirements for brush clearance were back in 2003 when the fire came through here, right? And I've told you about that. We've discussed it, and that night, 1:00 in the morning, and the winds are blowing, and it's hotter than heck, and the flames are literally 3 houses away from me here, and I'm standing on my roof with a 5/8-inch water hose, trying to water my roof down, and just feeling so insignificant and overwhelmed by everything. And it's just one of those times in your life where everything slows down, and it's literally life in slow motion, and flashing lights from fire engines and fire crews in the streets, and all the blinking lights and the smell of smoke, and everything just slowed down for that time.
Well, you were at my house in Anaheim Hills, California. I think you were there when my house got flooded, because I had I'll call it a fire sprinkler system on the roof, and when they had to redo the roof, the company came in and they they said they capped the line to disconnect it from the main water source. Well, guess what? They didn't do that. They said they did, and remember they had to tear down 5 rooms in my house because the guy didn't cap it right. It just flooded the whole thing. It was a nightmare. And anyway, scary stuff.
Well, since then we've done since then we've done our due diligence here. We've got our brush clearance all under control, all that kind of stuff. Here, you are required to remove brush that's defined as like, native brush and weeds and kind of trees, anything hazardous vegetation. It's got to be 200 feet away from buildings. And then if you're on adjoining properties, fence lines and stuff, there's got to be a 10-foot clearance for combustible materials. Especially if it's a roadway or any driveway or anything like that used for vehicular travel. So people are in my community anyway are very diligent about that, and we have brush clearing parties and all that.
You're a big sustainable. Your city is very big in sustainability and all of that. So that's good. So we got a irrigation association show coming up.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
And that should be pretty interesting. Lots of vendors I hear are going to be there. Lots of new technologies and such. So that should draw well. As you know, last week was at the, we missed you. I know you were on vacation, but we were at the Smart Innovation Expo in Las Vegas. And that was pretty good. I had 6 different companies on the show that I interviewed. Some really unique technology. A couple of them I really liked. One was the atmosphere water harvesting, which has a different technical approach than all the other companies that we've talked to over the years. So that was pretty interesting. And, we have an upcoming session with a man named Dr. Jerry Pollack, who we did. And that guy was incredible, great scientist, a great professor.
Don't want to give away too much to our listeners, but we've already recorded that session. And it went extremely well because of Dr. Pollack's schedule and agenda. And that's going to be a fascinating show. So we'll let our listeners know as we get a little bit closer to it when that might air, but it'll be a few weeks.
And I'll just hint it a little bit with saying, or put taste, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here. The teaser, I guess, is the right word. Talks about water that can carry positive and negative charges.
Yeah.
And I won't say any more than that, but it's very, very, very interesting in what they're working on. And it goes into medical things and the ag. And so we'll leave that for that, but that's going to be an exciting show.
Well, I'll tell you something else, and Rob, maybe you can comment about this too, right? Because as long as we're prognosticating what might be on future shows, Rob, you've got right where you live in Arizona. One of the local cities around your area is coming on, and yes. I'm looking forward to that, Rob. I know you're sort of, you're riding herd on that show, but give us a little taste or teaser.
Yeah, it's from Buckeye, Arizona. And it's the Buckeye Water Conservation and Drainage District. And I never heard of a water agency called that before. And so I went over and met with them. Nicest people in the world. And you joined in on the meeting, on video, talking about some of the projects they're doing for other cities around Arizona with the drainage. And they have some models in their front of their lobby of what they're doing. Really big projects. That should be pretty interesting. And it's not only for commercial, it's also for ag and some other stuff. So we're going to get a good history on that and when that was actually formed. I mean, that thing's like over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And good people, very good people. And a couple more weeks, we will have State Senator Sina Kerr. She owns a ranch farm, a big dairy farm. Nice family. I went down there and met with them, and the son actually he's in special projects for the Buckeye Water deal. And she is amazing at knowing about water. I mean, she knows her stuff. And so I'm glad she was in office to talk about the water and such. So I'm looking forward to those things. The show last week in Vegas was pretty good. The atmospheric water was really important to me. I like that. They also had another company on that talked about getting rid of blue algae and some new technology for that, which water districts got to deal with all the time, and even private citizens who own small property with lakes and rivers or whatever. So that was cool. It was a company from Korea that we had on that did a biodegradable mulch for agriculture, and it was pretty interesting of what they can do with it, and how you don't have to go dig it all up and throw it away. It just biodegrades and that. So good people on the show. They had some good presentations. Good. They call them poster reads, where people put up poster things and they stand there and talk about what their projects are. And that was good. But a lot of things, as always, was geared towards water use efficiency, and it's a good thing. I know they're moving it to the AWWA's now. The last 2 years has taken it over from Southern Nevada Water, and they did it in Las Vegas, where they've been doing it for 16 years. Now I'm told they're going to move it to Reno, Nevada.
Yeah, that's right.
And a lot of us were talking and giving some feedback. It's such an important factor that a lot of people from the East Coast, their businesses don't let them travel out here all that far to that. And I think it's such a big topic that they should take it around the country like the IA does, irrigation does, or like the AWWA has separate sectors all over the country, but they have national meetings in Canada and stuff like that. I think this would bring more awareness to people. Dr. David Dukes, I think you know him.
I do.
With him. Yeah. He comes out. A lot of people, Miss Karen Guz, San Antonio Water, she's in charge of water conservation. We get a lot of those people coming out, and they've been on our show. Many of those people have been on our show for years. But I think it needs to get expanded more out, and I would like to see a little bit more time on the exhibition floor so people have more time to talk. And now they tell me the new place where they're doing, I forget the name of the hotel it's at, we're going to be at. Apparently that, like it is or was for the last 16 years, the exhibition is on the second floor, and then you have to walk all around to the other side and go upstairs again to go to the classes. From what I understand, everything's all in the same site, meaning it's all on the same floor. So that will help, because a lot of people don't want to keep walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth just to see something.
Yeah, it's a long way, and truly, Rob, I was disappointed to miss that show. But as you know, I was back in the Midwest with some family reunion that was going on back there, as well as a high school reunion from my wife. I won't disclose how many years that reunion is, because I'll probably pay for that later on if I do.
It's 15 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure. Let's say we did. But I've been going to the Water Smart show myself for a dozen years at least, and with you, I think this would have been the 8th year if I had gone. What I love about that show, Rob, is that they really pay attention to new people coming into the industry, right? Especially with the poster board contest, all the projects that the students are working on, and they get a chance to present that, and they've got a easel with it's like a science fair essentially, right. Which is, and I love that. As you know, I would sneak away from the booth to go over and watch that, because it was so great to see the enthusiasm of young people and the projects that they're after and what interests them. So yeah, I missed that this year, Rob.
We all try to do that. I mean, it's a great time for meeting people we deal with on a daily basis by phone or by video. But it's so much better standing in front of them and talking to them, like Miss Veronica Vletti, who's head of the Water Sense program.
Oh yeah.
Great lady. Oh, absolutely. I've known her for more than a decade. But we can have great conversations, discussions, exploration of ideas and things like that, and plus with other people that, from water districts and agencies that were there. So it's a great show. I guess I'm happy to kind of move into another location, but I wish they'd do it more, maybe to Florida, maybe to, different areas, Texas, Arizona, just so it gets a little bit more publicity.
I think you're right. Hey, Rob, just one more thing here before you go. I know you're going to go to commercial break, but I promised the IA that I'd do a little promotion for the Irrigation Association, especially for the IA University, right? Because it returns this year to the 2024 Irrigation Show and Education Week, right? Everybody keeps saying the IA show, the irrigation show, but it's also an education week as well. And just want to point out, I want to make sure our listeners know that there are 5 brand new classes this year, right? So if you're in the irrigation industry at all and you can make it, please come to Long Beach, California. It's November 4th through 7th. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to elevate your technical skills. You're going to get exclusive insights from tons and tons of industry experts, and you'll get that competitive edge, right? So it's really easy to register. Go to irrigationshow.org and save your spot.
Yep. And just to be clear with our audience, the Irrigation Association and the American Waterworks Association are sponsors of the show, as many others: Kellogg's Garden Products, Duraplastic Products, Site One Landscape, and ConocoPhillips. And so we're very proud to have a good set of people who back us. Well, we're going to take a little break, commercial break. It'll be about 2 minutes. It's from Site One, some educational material. And then we're going to be back with somebody I've been wanting to talk to on air. I've met this lady a couple times before, and she's, all I can say is wow. And I'll explain it to her when we get on the back on the air. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hello, you're here because you want to grow your business and you're interested in seeing how adding outdoor lighting installations as a new service offering might help. Not only is adding lighting an easier way to add new revenue, it's also a great investment for your homeowners, increasing their property value by up to 20%. And because customers can easily see the difference lighting makes, they're likelier to sign on the dotted line and then brag to their neighbors about it, increasing your profitability. So how do you get started? Well, you've already got a truck, you've got most of the tools, and you also have a full list of prospects. Start by reviewing past projects. Identify customers, friends, or relatives who might benefit from lighting and could become an advertisement for other homes in the neighborhood, since a good installation can earn a lot of referrals. Consider giving a discount in exchange for using the project in your marketing efforts. And be sure to take before and after pictures. With your first couple of projects, ask lots of questions. What do your customers want in their lighting project? Common goals include illuminating an outdoor seating area, spotlighting unique features in the landscape, lighting pathways, or adding nighttime curb appeal. But you won't know until you ask. What's the budget? If there isn't one, put together 2 versions of the proposal, simple and full coverage. You can always land somewhere in the middle. Where is the power source located? What is the function of the space? Are there plans to expand the space or add more lighting in the next 2 to 3 years? Does the community have any lighting restrictions? Look at other houses in the area with lighting. Look for gaps in coverage or dark spots and think about how that could be solved when installing your first project. Always check local codes and permit requirements before starting a project. Some locations require a certified electrician on the project, and insurance coverage is recommended. For any landscape contractor, outdoor lighting is an exciting add-on to grow your business, keep your crews busy, and generate more revenue. Online or in-store, Site One has the resources you need, including products and training, as well as technical and design support. Visit Site One today to learn more and get started in outdoor lighting.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. I'm Rob and Chris, and we're here, and we got a great guest, and her name is Susan Kennedy. She happens to be the chairman and CEO of a company called Bees. They've been on the show a couple years ago. Susan hasn't, but this will be her first time. But they are a very unique company, very exciting growth company, and they bring a lot to the table in the sense of water. And so I welcome Susan to the show.
Hey, Rob. Very nice to be here. And Chris, I guess, yes?
Yeah, that's correct, Susan. Welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here. I know it's taken a long time, but I got more to say now, so it's good.
Well, I never told you I think of you as wow.
Yeah, I didn't. I've been called a lot of things. I don't know about wow.
Well, you're a woman of water.
I love it.
I don't want to. No, that's I kind of coined that, and the IA likes to use that a lot. But I look at you because I've been to so many expos and symposiums where you presented and talked about some things that it blew me away, and it blew the audience away because they don't know the whole story about it. And I was going to get into that with you. Maybe you can give us a little brief history going back into the 1983, I guess is when it all started. Maybe you just give our listening audience, for those of us or people that listen, some may know about it, some may not, but just give a little history about it, and then we can get into some details.
Yeah, happy to. So Cadiz we're a publicly traded company that started back in the 1980s with when these guys were actually doing using satellite imaging to identify the water resources based upon the patterns on the surface. And they down in the eastern Mojave Desert, they identified this massive watershed system where all of the water is like a 2,000 square mile watershed system where all of the water goes downhill and through this one narrow gap called Fenner Gap. And as soon as it goes through the Fenner Gap, it goes to the dry lakes and evaporates. And so they spent a number of years buying up parcels of land because it's way out there in the boonies. And they spent better part of 15 years buying and swapping the land so that with the Bureau of Land Management, with the railroads and other guys out there, and so they could make as much of it contiguous. And so we now own 45,000 acres of land in the eastern Mojave Desert. And we're the largest farming operation in San Bernardino County, thousands of acres of farming. Been doing that for several decades. And we are sitting on an aquifer system that has more water in it than Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States, times 2. There's more water in the aquifer system that is crossing right under our land than there is in the largest reservoir in the United States, times 2.
Wow.
So they've been developing this project to be able to make the surplus water available to communities for beneficial use for a couple of decades, and of course it got hit in the typical very controversial obstacles that any major project does, especially water, and they've been sort of buried under this obstacle list for 20 years. But it's now at the point where we're building and we're planning on delivering water in the next 2 years.
Wow, projects take a long time to do, and I've been trying to follow this ever since the beginning. I know you purchased a lease along the California-Arizona Railroad to build this pipeline. I think it was 43 miles, if I'm correct. And then you purchased the first stretch of a 220-mile pipeline from El Paso Natural Gas and completed a purchase of another entire pipeline. So that was always the plan, but you're doing other things besides just getting a pipeline ready.
Yeah, and stop for 1 second and zero in on 2 points. One is water is free, right? It falls from the sky. It's the infrastructure that costs money. The infrastructure to harness it, capture it, store it, move it, treat it. That's the expensive part. The second thing is that there is no such thing as scarcity of water. I know that may sound shocking coming from someone whose project is in the desert out in Southern California, but the fact is we have the same amount of water on the planet that we have had for 4 billion years. Water just simply changes form from ocean water to evaporation to clouds and precipitation, ice, rain, and then it makes its way back to the ocean by any means necessary. It cycles on the surface of the ocean. So our entire water management system revolves around the infrastructure to capture the water as it's moving back towards the ocean and be able to use that fresh water for human consumption. It's about the infrastructure.
Right. I remember a few years ago when you came up the stage and at San Bernardino, and said, "We're not in a drought. We have more water than you can ever believe it." And the room was silent. And then you went on to make
and I think thank God I had the videos to show, free flowing water under the Mojave Desert to prove my point.
Yeah. Chris, jump on in.
I will. Susan, again, welcome to the show. And, we've had Cadiz on before, as Robert said, but it was many, many years ago. But I do remember, and I do remember talking about the huge area of desert land that, as you just referred to it, as out in the boonies. And, that's a huge area of boonies out there for sure. But, maybe you can tell our listeners, I'm kind of messaging I'm watching the message board here, and they're saying, can we hear a little bit more about what expertise that Cadiz brings? I know you're into, not just what you described as building the pipeline, talking with Rob there, but also storage, conveyance, treatment. So can you kind of expand on what you were just describing?
Sure. First of all, if you realize how, so we're sitting on land that is fed by an aquifer that has a natural recharge rate of, it's got 30 to 50 million acre feet of water in the watershed. It's got a natural recharge rate of between 40 and 50,000 acre feet per year flowing through Fenner Gap, and so Cadiz's expertise is in farming and in water management and in the water treatment and all the facilities it takes to harness and move and store water. And we're experts in the water industry in terms of water contracting and water law and all the negotiations with public agency processes, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. 2 years ago, we bought a company called Atex Filtration Systems. Yeah. And we started using it on our wells to treat with a little bit of chromium-6 in our water, not much. Most of the water is super, super high quality, and all the water is, and it's got a little bit of chromium-6. So we tested this out, and it was the cheapest and most cost-effective system we'd ever seen on the market. So we bought the company. They build these water tanks and medium up in Hollister. And we bought the company, and we're deploying it there. They've deployed hundreds of systems, and we're now scaling it, and we're doing major projects all along the West Coast. And we're now able to offer, and it treats arsenic, chromium-6, iron, manganese, nitrates. The medium can be designed to handle almost any type of constituent of concern, and the tank design is super cost effective. Much more so than others. So we're now able to offer water products that are a combination of water supply and water treatment, or standalone water treatment, or water conveyance, or water storage and water treatment. So this combination of water supply, water storage, water conveyance, and water treatment gives us the most valuable and versatile suite of water products in the southwestern United States.
Is it a scalable system, Susan? Or is it just a one-size-fits-all, or can you give us a little more info on that?
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. It is most of the big guys that are in this industry. They've designed their systems for the big water systems, right? They can't scale down. This tank design is one that allows us to scale in any direction. So we can do the smallest system, like community wells. We're installing a number of community wells in farm worker communities and on some tribal reservations out in the Coachella Valley. It's tiny systems, and we're also installing systems for major. Some tribes have major casino operations. We've got some cities that we're doing city scale. We're doing the largest water district in central Utah. So we can do big systems and we can do small systems.
Well, you got involved with a project out by the Salton Sea, and that's to provide, I believe, a 50-year supply of water for Cadiz to their Torres Martinez Desert Indians and the Salton Sea Authority. That's an amazing challenge in itself. But see, a lot of people don't know all of this about Cadiz. They just know from 10 years ago there was a piece of land, and they're buying up rights next to railroad tracks, and they're going to do this and do that. And like I said, the more I came to the symposiums and listened to you speak and followed on the website all the things you've done, it's an amazing journey that you guys did. You all had passion, really a lot of passion and a lot of faith, and keep it going. And you're doing a great job at that.
I appreciate it. Well, I mean, this will be the biggest thing I've done in my life, I believe. But it is,
Right.
People don't understand what Cadiz is because it was buried under the idea that there's A, no water really in the desert, and B, that any water we were going to pump from the groundwater would be shipped to Los Angeles to fill swimming pools, right? So it was very controversial because they didn't really have the data around this particular part of the Mojave back then when the project was first proposed. When in fact, we're in the eastern Mojave, which is different than, say, Death Valley. And in the eastern Mojave, this watershed is not in the rain shadow of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So the precipitation in this area is 10 times what you would find in other parts of the Mojave Desert. So the top of the watershed is ringed by the New York mountains at 7,500 foot elevation, the Providence Mountains at 7,100, 7,200 foot elevation, and the precipitation and snow in those mountains has not diminished at all with climate change, because the climate change is moving the snow and the rain south. So we're actually not impacted by that, and in fact, the water has increased and there's more surface water. But so there's a lot of water in this particular watershed. So that's one thing people didn't know. But the other thing that it makes us really different is that because of the pipelines that we bought, and the one pipeline we bought to the north is from El Paso Natural Gas, and it'll be the first in the world to convert a fossil fuel pipeline to carry water. But it allows the water at Cadiz to be used in all of these high-growth, disadvantaged communities out in the desert. Cities like Barstow, Adelanto, Victorville, all those areas. And when you go up even further up the pipeline, Lancaster, Palmdale, those are high-growth areas, and they are very water-starved because they don't have the infrastructure. They can't tap into Lake Mead. They have no backup supplies. They're filling their groundwater basins from the state water project. They're paying hundreds of dollars just for the energy costs to pump water over the Tehachapi's to fill groundwater basins in the Mojave Desert in the Mojave River Basin in Barstow. So when I came in, we changed the mission of the company and said, okay, all of our contracts for water supply are 30 or 40-year take-or-pay contracts, right? I have 10 years of water supply under my current permit that is never going to go anywhere. So we started giving the water to any disadvantaged community that could take it in the area of our pipeline. And the only deal is they pay to move it. They pay the cost of moving it. But the only deal is they join with a coalition of other agencies to help build the infrastructure. Because it's companies like Cadiz we're not eligible for any public grants. This has to be a public entity that owns and operates this project. And so these disadvantaged communities will be helping us apply for grants for them to help build the infrastructure, and they will be the most water secure areas in the Southwest, certainly in the state of California.
Wow. Now, do you have rights I know you have rights to the property near the tracks, next to the tracks. Can you utilize the railroad tracks?
Yes, we own a right-of-way. Yeah, it's a 99-year, I think there's 82 years left on it, but there's a 99-year right-of-way along the Arizona-California Railroad that allows us to build pipeline infrastructure. It's 43 miles long, and from our well field down to the Colorado River Aqueduct. And so we can actually build a pipeline system that allows us to move water in two directions. So we can store water from the Colorado River, and we can send water.
I don't know if you ever heard of this company I'm going to mention. It's called the Water Train, and we had them on.
Yes.
Yeah, about 8 years ago, and at that time they said they bought 60-something rail cars. Yeah, and is that something that you can help use to move water?
Oh, absolutely. I was actually just talking about the other day. The only problem is it's really, really heavy. So it's very expensive to move that uphill because it's so heavy. So, but yeah, no, it's being done in some areas out in out in Arizona. So they're doing it in some areas. We could certainly do it. We have Cadiz actually used to be a railroad stop in the when they were building out the railroads going west. So Cadiz is this little town where they used to stop to fill the trains with water when they were steam engines, and because the water is so prolific there, right? And we've got multiple rail lines, we have multiple gas lines, different, El Paso, SoCalGas, all these companies had different, and they got BNSF and Arizona, California. We're sitting right in the middle of a major highway system when it comes to utility infrastructure. That's what makes us just so uniquely positioned.
Oh, absolutely. One silly question, I don't know if you can answer it or not. So when you convert these pipelines that carry gas or oil, how do they clean them? How do they get the residue?
Not a silly question at all. And number one thing I learned is that hydrocarbons like oil don't stick to steel. And so it was easy to clean. And this pipeline in particular was built by All American 35 years ago to carry oil from Santa Barbara to McCamey, Texas, to the oil refineries. It's part of a 1,300-mile pipeline system that was built by All American. El Paso Natural Gas bought it in the 1980s, I think, and 25, 30 years ago, and they converted this entire line from oil to gas. Some of the sections they put into service. We're actually taking gas off of a section of the old pipeline today, but this particular spur from Cadiz out to the Wheeler Ridge was made idle, and it's just been held under cathodic protection and filled with nitrogen for the last 25 years. So it's in great shape.
Wow.
Already been cleaned.
It's such a great story to hear more about all this. Like I said, I thought I was smart enough to know everything that was going on, but I learn more and more. And every time I hear you, I just get blown away. I love what you guys are doing. If there's any way I can support it, I'd be glad to do it. It's incredible. Chris, you got some follow-ups?
I do. So I'd like to ask a question, Susan, because a compelling story for sure, right? And you've told us all about, all the infrastructure you've got in place in the storage, conveyance, treatment, acquiring ATEC, which is a great solution, and all the underserved communities that you provide. But and you gave us a little bit a hint about what problems that you solve. But can you go into that? What is the issue? You said that we provide this and we provide this service. Who benefits from that, Susan? Who's the end benefactor?
So there are, I think anybody who needs water is a benefactor, and it really depends on how you receive water and how you make it potable, right? So, first of all, as a company, 3 years ago, we made a decision that we were going to make sure that the communities that we were closest to, that were closest to where we live in the desert, were going to benefit from this project and this company in one way or another. Whether they needed
awesome.
If they needed water, they're going to get water. If they don't need water, there's some that actually just need the pipeline access to move their own water on a pipeline, but they can't afford to build the pipeline. If they need water treatment, they get water treatment. So we started working with each of those communities, and the first stop on the pipeline, the northern pipeline, is the city of Barstow. And the first contract that we signed for water supply is with the investor-owned utility, Golden State, that serves the city of Barstow. And for the first time, we're actually going to be able to, depending on how it gets designed. I'm not at the head of Golden State, but the designs that we've looked at are built. We could be delivering potable water with treatment directly to the city of Barstow, right, because they're right off our pipeline. And with the backup of millions of acre feet right there in their backyard, Barstow could become the most water secure area in California. Right down the road from them are the groundwater basins down in Centro and Baja water basins in the Mojave River that they're having a real hard time with their wells because the water from the State Water Project isn't making it from up above where Victorville and the State Water Project Canadian system is. They put water in the Mojave River. It's hitting a fault line, and it's not making it down to the Centro and Baja. So all the farmers down there, and Daggett and Yermo and all these other places, they're really screwed because they don't have they don't have any natural supply to build their groundwater basins back up, and it's getting worse under climate change. We're going to be able to drop water off right in the groundwater basins in those areas. So that's our design is to be, so we're going to be able to help them with their groundwater levels and protect them for decades and generations to come. So that's two examples of how you can benefit. And then the other, let me give you one other.
Sure,
two others.
Absolutely.
There's parts of the Inland Empire that are called State Water Project dependent areas. They are physically not able to connect to the Colorado River system where they could access backup supply at Lake Mead, right? So when the last 2-3 years ago, when the Colorado River and the State Water Project both went into shortage at the same time, when they were looking at staring down the barrel of a third year of severe drought, these communities, Fontana, Rialto, all those areas in the Inland Empire, they were in dire straits in terms of if that kept going, they were going to be in trouble. So one of the other contracts we signed is Fontana Water Company serves there. So we're able to through exchanges with state water contractors, we will be able to drop water off in one of the water basins of major state water contractors along our pipeline, and then exchange water from the State Water Project to serve those communities, and they will have a 50-year supply. So that's another way. But the last one is really the biggest one. Do you mind if I do this and give you one more?
Go for it.
So groundwater banks, the way they're normally built by the utilities and the water agencies, is like take Metropolitan and AVEC, the High Desert Water Bank. These agencies pay for the infrastructure in order to capture and store water in a groundwater bank that can be stored for during wet years and surplus years, and then they have to fill it with water from that they're contracted to. So that would take its state water contract water and park it there, and then they can take 80% out when they need it. Right? That's the way water banking works. Our water bank is different. We have 30 to 50 million acre feet already in the water bank. So that means we will be able to advance water. We'll be able to loan water. We'll be able to provide optional water projects, backup water projects, emergency water supplies. We will be able to exchange water between the Colorado River rights holders and state water project holders. And we've been working with a number of Native American tribes that have a lot of water rights, but they have trouble trading them because of the barriers, the legal barriers. Well, if they own the water bank, and it now facilitates the kinds of exchanges that you cannot do with a traditional water bank. We will be we're going to be the only major water bank that's owned by Native American tribes, for one, and we're also going to be the largest operating water bank in the southwestern U.S., being able to facilitate a lot of exchanges between Arizona and Southern California. So it's enormously important.
Yeah, what an exciting future ahead of you guys for sure. And I know just to get all this done, right? Cadiz as an entity, especially a private enterprise, you obviously can't get all this done by yourself. So you work with other folks. Can you tell us about who you work with, like agencies and government, environmental? Kind of give us a brief overview of that.
Well, we the primary contract holders for the water supply. They've signed take-or-pay contracts, and those are AAA credit water agencies. And those contracts, we have about 85% of the northern pipeline is under contract, and that's important because it gives us the revenue stream, the safe, solid revenue stream to be able to finance construction. The construction part is going to be overseen by a bunch of public agencies and public entities that will include. Remember, the most important one I think was the County of San Bernardino. Joined the Joint Powers Authority to sit on the body that would govern the infrastructure, and that's a hugely important relationship for us with the county, and some of the other disadvantaged communities that we've been working with, including some tribes, will also sit on the governing body, and that has changed. That means that this project will be eligible for probably the maximum amount of the grant funding that's available for this kind of water infrastructure, because it's not going to a private company, it's going to the public agencies. So putting that coalition together was super, super important. And then I guess we've really been focusing on the local communities. So there's the desert resource agencies that we've been, environmental groups we've been working with at the local level about the groundwater monitoring plan, making sure that the water is available for environmental purposes. Like we've offered water to the Salton Sea Authority because they don't have water, they don't have any water supply down there. And the more that IID cuts back and fallows, the less water that goes into the Salton Sea. So they have a problem in terms of fresh water to help build out some of the areas of the North Shore where they want to reduce the dust and do dust mitigation and kind of reduce the salinity of some of the water. So there's a lot of uses for our water on the environmental side, on the groundwater replenishment side, and on the water supply side that will be able to benefit.
Yeah, I'm starting to see there's lots of toxic dust and stuff, so that's going to be a big help. I do want to ask you a quick question, and it'll probably be the final question. You have a state-of-the-art groundwater monitoring program, and I got to tell you, from all the things that I've read and seen, you run a first-class operation. And again, there's a lot of people in the water industry who kind of know about it or do know about it, and yet there's a lot of common citizens that don't know anything about Cadiz. And I'm glad you took the time to come on. Can you tell us a little about this groundwater monitoring program?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. So, part of the controversy 20 years ago was they didn't have the data about this groundwater and this particular basin, and nobody could believe there was that much water in the Mojave Desert. So that lack of data was part of the reason that it became so controversial in the first place. But this was under the Clinton administration when they first brought this project forward with Metropolitan. It got shot down, but in that first proposal, they put in place a mitigation plan for not knowing what the data was. It was a state-of-the-art groundwater monitoring. So we have more state-of-the-art groundwater monitoring than and we did it decades before any other groundwater basin in the state of California. And that data has been reported to the county. It is publicly available for 25 years. And we've been using that data to model how the project would work. And people can't believe it when they see the groundwater, when they see the hydrograph. When our groundwater basin is on such an angle. It's 7,500 feet at the top of the watershed down to 800 feet where Fenner Gap is. So just imagine that, how much the gravity pulling that much water downhill, right? So our wells up in Fenner Gap, we're seeing 5,000 gallons per minute in our wells. I don't think you can tell me you can find a well anywhere that can show you 5,000 gallons per minute. And the fact is, the groundwater recovers 10 times faster than any well we've ever seen. And the groundwater fills back in faster than we can pump it out because of the angle. That's what groundwater monitoring will be able to monitor and show.
That's awesome. At the beginning of the show, I called you Wow. Do you remember that? I'm going to add something new to it. I'm going to call it WOW, SWOW. And that means Smart Woman of Water. And I appreciate
Good one, Rob.
Love it.
I appreciate you coming on the show. This was a great thing. A lot of our listeners wanted to know more about Cadiz. They hear the name, but they sometimes read stuff in the paper, but most of the time they don't know what that means, so they just pass it on. So we do appreciate you coming on. Anytime you want to come back, give us some news or any breaking things, we'd be glad to have you. Take a phone call and you got it.
Love it. I will do that, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Okay. One more thing. How do people get a hold of Cadiz?
We can go to our website, www.cadizinc.com, and all this information is available on the website. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you,
Susan.
Yeah. And Chris, I'd like to tell everybody, please help keep our planet blue.
Planet blue.
And if you like green, you can't have it without blue. So use it wisely. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. And you have a great weekend. And try to stay cool and stay out of the fires and hurt. Good night.
KCAA Loma Linda.